When you think about it, every single bit of progress, whether it's a tiny software update or a massive societal shift, is really driven by one of two ways of thinking. The big question is, are you fixing what's broken or are you building what's missing? That's the huge difference between just slapping on a Band-Aid and actually building a bridge. And today, we're going to dig into why that distinction is so critical. So here are the two modes in a nutshell. On one side, you've got problem solving, or what we can call restoration. It's like carefully gluing a shattered vase back together. You're reacting to something that happened in the past to get things back to normal. But on the other side, you've got gap filling, and that's all about evolution. This is about engineering the future, literally building a bridge to a place that doesn't exist yet. And trust me, they're not the same thing at all. All right, let's dive into the first path, the reactive fix. This is the world of the firefighter, the emergency room doctor. It's all about dealing with what's right in front of you, mending what is broken. So this whole approach kicks off from a place of, well, deficit. The question it always asks is, what's broken? The trigger isn't some exciting new idea, it's a disruption. Something's gone wrong. A machine grinds to a halt, a supply chain snaps, a process just isn't working anymore. Your focus immediately snaps to that negative space, to the problem. This is the classic crisis response playbook. You zero in on that disruption, that one faulty gear in the machine, and you apply a very specific fix to get the whole system back to normal. Now, don't get me wrong, this is absolutely essential for survival. But the ambition here is limited. It's fundamentally backward-looking because the only goal is to get you back to the status quo. And the method for this is usually pretty straightforward, almost like a checklist. A great example is the ideal model. You identify the problem, you analyze its root causes, you solve it with a targeted fix, and then you verify that your solution actually worked. It's a structured path designed for immediate relief, using tools like root cause analysis to find that single point of failure and fix it fast. A perfect real-world example of this is what Walmart did with robotics. They had a clear problem. Restocking shelves was slow and inefficient. The fix? They brought in robots to automate the whole thing. And it was a huge success in terms of optimization. But, and this is the key thing, notice the scope. It didn't transform their business model. It just made one part of their existing process way more efficient. But what if your goal isn't just about fixing the present? Well, that brings us to the other side of the coin, the proactive leap. This is all about building what is missing. And this is a total 180-degree shift in perspective. Instead of looking at what's broken, this mindset asks a much more visionary question. What's missing? It's not looking at the current reality to find flaws. It's looking at the vast gap between where we are today and a potential much better future. So the trigger here isn't a crisis. It's more like a whisper of the future, a new trend that's just starting, an unmet need nobody's talking about yet, or just a bold idea. The goal here is not survival. It is pure evolution. It's about spotting a destination that isn't even on the map yet, and then designing the bridge to get all of us there. And unlike the straight-line fix we saw before, the process here is this continuous, looping cycle of discovery. You're constantly defining where you are, assessing what's possible, trying out a strategy, and then monitoring your progress so you can adjust your course. It's kind of like a dynamic dance with the future. And the classic example of this, electric vehicles. I mean, think about it. They didn't just fix a problem with the gas engine. They built a bridge across a massive gap, the need for sustainability, that the entire auto industry was pretty much ignoring. And in doing that, they created a whole new market from scratch. Okay, so we've got these two incredibly powerful approaches. But what happens when a company, or even just a person, leans way too heavily on just one of them? Well, that's where we run into the huge risk of imbalance. The difference in philosophy here is just profound. Problem solving is like firefighting. It's urgent, it's precise, it's focused on putting out the immediate danger to create stability. Gap filling, on the other hand, is like planting an orchard. It's visionary, it requires patience, and it's all about creating something new that will flourish in the future. And just look at their toolkits. They are completely different. A crisis triggers short-term restorative problem solving with diagnostic tools, but a trend? That triggers long-term, expansive gap filling with tools like analytics and market research. It's a clear trade-off, right? You're either choosing reactive precision or visionary breadth. And this is where it gets dangerous. If you get that balance wrong, you fall into one of two traps. A problem-only focus leads to stagnation. Sure, you'll survive, but you will never, ever progress. But a gap-only focus, that risks delusion, chasing these beautiful visions while the real operational fires right at your feet burn the whole thing down. So this brings us to the real secret sauce for sustainable progress, the hybrid advantage. It's not about picking a side. It's about mastering the art of synchronizing both of these mindsets. The most effective strategy, it turns out, is to solve your immediate problems, to get your operations stable. Why? Because that stability is what gives you the foundation, the resources, the time, the sheer mental space to then go out and seek those future opportunities. You have to stabilize in order to innovate. And you see this hybrid approach everywhere once you start looking for it. A smart delivery manager fixes today's shipping mistake while using that crisis to justify modernizing their entire tech stack for the future. Or a podcast platform uses user feedback on bugs not just to fix the app, but to identify gaps for entirely new features. They're solving and seeking at the very same time, and they just blow the pure fixers out of the water. Now, this whole mental model isn't just for a business strategy meeting. It actually scales all the way up to how we think about progress for society as a whole. Think about it on a social level. Reacting to hunger with food aid, that's a critical, life-saving, problem-solving fix. But proactively designing educational and economic systems that create long-term self-sufficiency, that is a gap-filling vision. One is treating the symptom, the other is trying to cure the disease. Real, lasting progress absolutely requires both. And looking ahead, we're seeing this fascinating trend emerge on a macro scale. Of course, crises will always trigger that reactive public aid. But the long-term momentum is shifting. More and more, proactive, private innovation is the force that's building the bridges to fill those big systemic gaps, charting a whole new path for progress. I think this quote just says it all, really. Problem-solving is how you survive today. Gap-filling is how you create significance for tomorrow. One isn't better than the other. They are, quite simply, the left and right foot you need to actually walk the path of progress. So this leaves us with one final big question. For you, in your work, in your projects, even in your own life, which mode are you in right now? Are you applying a Band-Aid or are you building a bridge? The ability to not only know the difference, but to know which one is needed at the right time, well, that's the very definition of progress.